these numbers are completely derisory relative to the scale of the problem. And this is Starmer massively on the back foot. You know, his party is currently literally behind Reform in the polls, despite his enormous majority in the House of Commons. He's panicking, and they've rustled up this pathetic stunt. Well, taxpayers are not going to be deceived by this, are they?
This is a really simple rule, and you and I can disagree with it. In fact, I do disagree with it.
Sure.
But here is the rule. You can only be exempt for capital gains tax on the sale of your primary residence. And it is a classic dodge to pretend that, in fact, the other property that you're selling is your primary residence and your partner lives in that, and actually you're living parallel lives. It is a load of nonsense. It's quite obvious that she has tried to dodge here, in my opinion.
Just like that, Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner shifted from cocky remarks to frozen faces, all because of Isabel Oakeshott, who arrived armed with evidence sharper than Rayner's glare and bolder than Starmer's clumsy pauses. One moment they were pushing catchphrases. The next they were stuck like shady WhatsApps in a dump. Isabel didn't only call them out. She sliced their claims and dished them raw. What did she uncover that sent Labour racing for the door? This wasn't a discussion. It was destruction.
You know, taxpayers are entitled to be absolutely bloody furious that once again their intelligence is being insulted and their hard-earned cash is being squandered arranging exclusive private jet travel for Albanians who, you know, let's be frank,
Have broken the law. Have broken the law.
They've broken the law, and what are they getting? 4 seats each or something on the private jet. What an absolute joke, and what a disgrace this government is.
And I think she's in real difficulty.
But this is not the kind of
and
thing
it
that
is
she'll
such a
resign
trivial
over.
amount of money. And I wouldn't mind so much if it weren't for the fact that Labour is so profligate with our money and proposes ever higher taxes, yet doesn't want to pay them themselves.
Keir Starmer once assured a crowd he carried a plan. That alone was the first warning sign, because if Starmer claims a plan, it's likely laminated, color-coded, rubber-stamped by a panel of 6 nameless advisors, and features at least one pre-planned apology. And right beside him, like a clumsy subplot in a soap nobody wanted, is Angela Rayner, who somehow embodies the human version of yelling inside a metal shed. Noisy, hollow, and completely nonsensical.
The purpose of this government is to make our public services and our economy work for working people, strengthen our country in a world that increasingly preys on weakness. It's a cause that demands nothing less than the full power of government. Yet that's precisely what's broken.
But then Isabel Oakeshott entered the exchange like a sharpened chainsaw coated in wit. And instantly, the whole Labour illusion went up like Starmer's newest manifesto left resting against a heater.
For this, because we're the ones that have to face the consequences of having all these people in the country, in our country, who should not be here, and they're using it as some kind of hotel, despite the fact that many of these people that we're talking about here in these court cases actually have serious criminal records.
Yes.
Keir Starmer is the sort of man who could see a building fall and still require half a dozen focus groups to confirm if it was sad. This is a figure whose political instincts are so over-calibrated that he spends more effort avoiding offense than actually achieving results. And Angela Rayner? She's like if the idea of working-class grit was pushed through a spin cycle and then voiced by a glitching Alexa.
Dry it, all done that, hope it goes away. Or you can strip it out, rip out the plaster, and deal with the problem once and for all.
Isabel Oakeshott didn't simply attack them. She broke them down like a GCSE science project gone off script. She didn't require sound bites. She didn't rely on theatrics. All she used was some reasoning, a dash of disdain and a glare so cutting it could shred Starmer's notoriously hazy policy drafts like a scalpel through damp paper.
There is going to be political hell to pay for this deal that's being done today, this very, very dirty deal. Starmer has long been desperate to reverse Brexit, and now he's in a position where he's doing it in stages. This is a big set of concessions that he's making today. And actually, far be it from me to praise the Tories, but I think James cleverly had it right when he tweeted this morning that Starmer has got diplomacy the wrong way.
Let's begin with Keir's version of leadership, which seems to involve performing political taxidermy on every idea that once carried life. He's taken Labour, a party that once burned with energy, and reduced it to a TED Talk presented by a worn-out HR manager. Starmer sells change like a shady contractor. All the tools, no clue. And whenever he's pressed, he reacts with the emotional depth of a self-checkout machine, reminding you to clear your bagging area. Rayner, meanwhile, struts into debates as if she's been binging too much EastEnders, convinced that shouting, "I'm one of you," loudly enough will cover the fact she's spraying contradictions like confetti. Her whole act is based on the belief that volume equals truth, which is charming if you're 6.
But unless we fundamentally reform the way government goes about its business, unless we first change how we try to change the country, then the hairdryer is all we've got. And this is a big job. Prisons overflowing, the NHS on its knees, a £22 billion black hole in our public finances, which, to put that in context, is nearly half of what we spend on defence of.
Isabel naturally wasn't buying it. She treated Starmer's fake integrity like a counterfeit handbag, fine from afar. But up close, the stitching's crooked, the smell's off, and it's probably held together with the tears of abandoned trade unions. She underlined what everyone's known for years. Starmer switches positions more often than a mattress in a discount hotel. He backed Corbyn until it got uncomfortable. He embraced Brexit once it was unavoidable. He wooed centrists, teased the left, and now appears to ghost them all in favor of whoever's polling strongest that week. And Rayner? Isabel sliced through her tirades like a laser through butter. Beneath all the staged outrage is a politician who thinks shouting about injustice equals fixing it. That if you drop enough G's and remind people you once worked in a care home, they'll overlook that your policies have more gaps than a battered sieve. Let's be real, Oakeshott isn't exactly known for restraint. She didn't dismantle these two with fire, she did it with icy precision, like a surgeon bored of playing operation. Starmer, she stressed, is less a leader and more a human screensaver, sometimes flickering into relevance, but mostly drifting aimlessly. His grand vision for Britain appears to be making everything slightly less humiliating. Truly inspirational stuff.
Is that you try to develop good relationships with other countries to further your own interests. You don't sacrifice your interests in order to develop better relationships with other countries. And, Starmer, what bit of this doesn't he understand? The British public are absolutely fed up of the state of immigration. They are fed up with mass uncontrolled immigration. Starmer can shout as much as he wants about smashing the vile people smuggling gangs. He's smashed precisely 0 gangs.
Rayner, meanwhile, received the kind of figurative slap that makes you reconsider life choices. Isabel exposed her as someone whose grasp of policy shrinks the louder her confidence grows. It's almost impressive, the sheer flood of words Rayner can hurl without producing anything solid. It's like sitting through a TEDx talk delivered by someone who skimmed only the headlines. But let's get into details, shall we? Take Starmer's infamous U-turns. There was the nationalization vow, which lasted about 5 seconds before being quietly dropped under not electorally practical. Then came his position on student debt. Remember that? Wipe the fees, stand with students, fight the noble fight, until someone waved a spreadsheet and he chose to ghost Gen Z like a bad Tinder date. And the instant Starmer promised to restore trust in politics, you could almost hear irony gasping in the background. This is the man who pledged unity, yet delivered a party more divided than Rayner's northern vowels. Isabel didn't have to exaggerate. She just pointed, smirked, and let the contradictions tumble like dominoes. Then came the economy. Dear Lord, the economy. Starmer speaks about fiscal responsibility as if it's a fresh religion. He even parades Rachel Reeves like a political crucifix to ward off the ghosts of Labour's free-spending past. But Reeves' economic plan is basically to cut costs, smile stiffly, and hope nobody notices the whole framework rests on vibes and recycled conservative slogans.
It isn't because the man is stupid, it's because, and this is a theme I keep returning to, he lacks judgment. And that is so important for somebody at the top of politics. If you don't have the right judgment, you're not going to last long. So you ask the question, how does he get this off the front pages? Here's what I'm going to say about that. This is not going to go away until he reveals his...
And when it comes to Rayner's proposals, if Starmer's policy is beige wallpaper, hers is a fireworks warehouse run by toddlers, free giveaways for everyone, funded by wishful thinking, maybe a tax plan borrowed from Narnia? Oakeshott mocked the lot by simply repeating what Rayner once endorsed before she conveniently erased it from memory. One of Isabel's sharpest takedowns came when she likened Starmer's leadership style to a faulty sat-nav, always recalculating, never certain of the route, constantly swearing he knows a shortcut, only to steer the nation straight into a cul-de-sac of muddle and compromise. And Rayner, bless her, riding shotgun with the Guardian in hand and no clue how directions work. The two of them, Starmer, the weary dad trying to navigate a family road trip while pretending he doesn't despise everyone in the car, and Rayner, the hyper cousin who downed 3 Red Bulls and now demands to be noticed, are not a dream team. They're a sitcom walking around without the laugh track. Oakeshott didn't just shred their policies, she questioned their very political cores. Starmer's career, she suggested, is a performance piece called Avoiding Commitment, while Rayner serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when charisma gets mistaken for competence.
Exactly what his secret is, but he sure as hell has got one or more secrets, and they relate in some way to Lord Ali and to his family. Now, I don't know how those two things overlap, but there is a secret there. There are papers all over this. They are waiting for their moment. There are people other than newspaper journalists.
Then came the moment Isabel truly landed the blow, exposing the contradiction between Starmer's obsession with law and order. Remember, former director of public prosecutions, as he likes to casually remind everyone, and his total failure to control his own party. The Labour benches are more fractured than a pizza at a toddler's birthday, and Starmer's method of managing it is to act like it isn't happening. Classic leadership move. If you ignore the blaze, maybe it disappears on its own. Rayner's greatest hits are just as tragic. She's both the voice of the people and the voice most people wish would pause for breath. Her speeches are a mashup of half-remembered catchphrases delivered at full volume. She once called herself a warrior, which makes sense only if your definition of combat is pulling intense faces while asking someone else to explain your policies. Oakeshott made it brutally clear. The Starmer-Rayner pairing is a political blind date gone terribly wrong. One wants to play it safe and order sparkling water, the other's halfway through their 3rd Jaeger bomb and lecturing the waiter about class betrayal. It's clashing energy, clashing ideologies, and zero chemistry. Unless, of course, you count mutual tolerance as a romantic spark.
Well, when you were reading out the list of lefties that are going nuts about this, I was actually thinking Downing Street will be really happy at the spectacle of lefties going nuts, because it suggests that they're what they've announced is credible and believable and is genuinely, at least right of centre and a little bit Farage. It is none of the above. The lefties have no need to go nuts, because none of this is going to actually make a material difference.
And let's not overlook the working class cosplay. Starmer, the North London barrister who can't say Greggs without sounding like he's auditioning for the Crown, straining to connect with ordinary people. Rayner, meanwhile, waves her background around like a get-out-of-policy free card, as though growing up poor makes her ideas untouchable. Oakeshott skewered this routine with the accuracy of a satirist fed up with the same recycled pantomime. Even Starmer's grand speeches are pitiful. Every time he announces a defining mission, you can almost hear a weary advisor mutter, make it sound Churchillian, but not too rousing. His climate plan? Foggy. His housing strategy? Shrug emoji. His stance on small businesses? Entirely dependent on whether a camera is present. And Isabel Oakeshott, standing on a platform of brutal honesty, voiced what most people already feel. Starmer's trying to win power by being as bland as possible, which works if you're auditioning for Bake Off, not steering a nation. As for Rayner, she's the gift that keeps on giving, if the gift is a megaphone stuck in a permanent caps lock. Isabel likened her rhetorical style to a glitching pub quiz host, confident, loud, and painfully misinformed. And the policies? They're nothing more than a glitter cannon of promises no one ever intends to fund.
You calling Keir Starmer Keith, I think that's deadly. I think it's as deadly as John Major tucking his shirt into his underpants.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Absolutely, yeah. Who could forget it? And remember who wrote about his underpants, of course, that very serious political commentator, Mr. Alistair Campbell, who pretends now to be a very highfalutin and, very high-thinking individual, but has forgotten that he used to write a column for the Daily Mirror, which was about as down and dirty as you could get.
Well, it was a phrase that stuck, wasn't it? And I'm quite keen on getting this Keith Starmer thing going, because he is Keith, really, isn't he? No offence to any Keiths that may be listening, but it just seems to suit Starmer to be called.
Even their latest campaign ads are painful. Starmer staring pensively out a window like a man trying to remember where he left his car, and Rayner stomping around a factory floor pretending she understands supply chains. It's politics as theater of the cheapest kind. Authenticity as performance, sincerity as tactic. So, what's next? Well, Starmer will likely carry on doing his impression of a political Swiss Army knife, versatile, forgettable, and only handy in very narrow situations. Rayner will keep bellowing into microphones until someone confuses noise with substance. And Oakeshott? She'll keep tearing down their facade, with the smug calm of someone who knows exactly how shallow it all is. Because ultimately, Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner aren't a vision for tomorrow. They're a warning of what happens when conviction gets swapped for calculation, and when shouting is mistaken for leadership. And Isabel Oakeshott? She's simply the one bold enough to say it aloud, with a smirk, a pen, and zero patience for political pantomime. Now go ahead. Hit that like button harder than Starmer hit Labour's credibility. And remember, some political takedowns don't need shouting, just a scalpel. And Oakeshott's got plenty on hand. Picture a man who faces every crisis like he's ordering a decaf latte. Calm, dull, utterly forgettable. That's the level of resolve we're left with. Keir treats urgency as optional, handling growing pressure with the enthusiasm of a librarian stuck at a rave. He's perfected the act of seeming present while quietly calculating how many fences he can perch on before someone realizes he's not actually moving forward.
Didn't deny these official projections which suggest that net immigration for the foreseeable next few years is likely to fall at around 500,000 people. Now, that was before today's announcement, but even Starmer's not saying this is going to slash immigration, is he? He's like, well, I'd like it to come down. It has to come down. It's not too great for us. But it's just nowhere near enough. It's a kind of pale yellow, not a blood red, which is what people are crying.
Angela, meanwhile, charges into political debate like a wrecking ball in high heels. Loud, chaotic, and mostly off target. Her rhetorical style depends more on raw volume than coherence, delivering points with the subtlety of a foghorn inside a chapel. No nuance, no framework, just a flood of slogans and the conviction that shouting equals truth. Enter Oakeshott once more, wielding critique like a scalpel dipped in truth serum. She doesn't yell, she dismantles. With every precise line, she strips away the glossy surface and reveals the rickety scaffolding of confusion beneath. No distractions, no dodging. Just a calm, ruthless spotlight on two politicians bluffing their way through leadership with less weight than a reality TV reunion episode. And the most alarming part? They actually believe it's working.